What's good, super friends? It's your tío Pepe from the mean streets of Sunland Park. Hey, dice el feo que quiere 3 de tripitas y 3 de buche. Sorry about that. Doing my little side hustle here. I've always had the reputation of being the cool uncle. You know, the one that lets you taste his old cough syrup when mom and dad aren't looking. So I always hook you up. I'm back to hook you up again, fam. For only $2 a month, you can skip these annoying ads and get our episodes ad-free and a week early. You'll also be the first to know when I release my MFTs. You've heard of NFTs? These are MFTs, baby. Mexican fungible tokens, vato. The first ones of Rocky Estar y Super Muñeco will be out soon. Shoot me a DM on the DL. Ain't none of Isela and Elena's business, if you know what I mean. We'll also send you stickers a few times a year and shout you out on our show. Link is in the show notes or check us out on patreon.com/technicallyaconversation. In 1997, 3M chemist Kris Hansen was tasked with testing the blood of their employees for the presence of fluorochemicals, also known as forever chemicals. Hansen was told they weren't toxic, but the company wanted to know how widespread they were in their employees. When testing control samples, they came to the realization that these chemicals were in every person and animal in every country they obtained samples from. This week, we'll discuss fluorochemicals and how they got in all of us, the possible health ramifications, and how comedian John Oliver led to Hansen coming forward with her story on this episode of Technically a Conversation. Greetings, you're listening to Technically a Conversation, a podcast where we share an interesting topic or story with each other and hope you find it interesting as well. I'm one half of your host, Jose, and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Isela. How are you doing today?
Feeling pretty marvelous. How are you doing?
Doing good. Not as marvelous as you are, since I didn't just come back from was it a weeks-long vacation? 2 weeks?
No, it was just a week. Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, I wish. Yeah. It was just a nice week. But yeah, I've got that like vacation glow on me still, you know.
I was going to say, you have a kind of a different vibe, like a different glow to you. You got that Portland sun on you.
Oh my God. the lack of... It was kind of overcast the entire time we weren't there. And then they said, I guess we brought the sunshine or something. I don't know.
See, you bring the sunshine everywhere, Isela.
That's what I do.
Not just to my... dark and depressive topics.
That's funny.
Speaking of which, I don't know how we did it, but somehow our Vilo Kallio and the Helsinki witch cult episode got recommended to a bunch of right-wing people who weren't very happy with us talking about liberal and progressive politics on our episode.
I saw the comments. They were like, we were attacked. I'm like, oh, bro.
Yeah, nobody's attacking them.
Yeah.
There were a few toxic comments. I took down the brain-dead ones that spewed vaccine misinformation, although I don't think that we talked about vaccines at all in that episode.
No.
But either way, they coerced the algorithm to get us close to 1,000 listens on YouTube, making our second most popular episode on that platform.
Woohoo!
So I think a big thank you to all of our fascist friends is in order.
To all the haters. Big ups to the haters.
Now, to celebrate, I think we should combine one of their loves with one of yours. What do you think?
I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'm listening.
Well, did you know that Donald Trump mentions Taylor Swift in an upcoming book? It's not a tell-all book where Trump discusses his crimes in detail. The book is actually by Variety co-editor-in-chief Ramin Setudi, and it's called Apprentice in Wonderland, How Donald Trump and Mark Burnett Took America Through the Looking Glass. When Setudi asked Trump what his thoughts on Taylor Swift were, he responded, I think she's beautiful, very beautiful. I think she's very beautiful. I think she's liberal. She probably doesn't like Trump. I hear she's very talented. I think she's very beautiful, actually. Unusually beautiful.
That was uncanny. That was pretty good.
Thank you. I actually worked on that a little bit.
I don't even understand why that's a topic of conversation for that person.
Yeah. Trump then stated that it surprises him that a country star can be successful being liberal. And Setude tells Trump that she's no longer a country star and has been making pop music for years. Trump then replies, Garth Brooks is liberal. Explain that. How does that happen? But he's liberal. And that's one of those things. Just one of those things.
What? I love how we're suddenly talking about Garth Brooks. Like, what the fuck? Boy, he cannot stay on topic.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that he's also liberal. Now, as a self-proclaimed Swiftie, what are your thoughts on this? You normally don't hear Trump compliment anyone aside from himself, but here he is, and he's calling Swift beautiful a nauseating amount of times and a liberal. 2 huge compliments.
I think once he said it that many times made me think he would probably try to grab her there. I'll just say that. But, you know, not surprised. Of course, she is very pretty, so I don't think anybody can necessarily deny that in general. So, yeah, I mean, she's talented. Yes, another person that, yeah, I agree. I just think it's very strange that was a topic of conversation. What do you think of what? What do you mean? Okay, fine.
She's very beautiful, actually. Very beautiful.
It's so weird. I don't know.
Now, Swift also made news when Entertainment Weekly exclusively reported that she would not be featured in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. I know that we had a little bit of fun with that on Instagram and Patreon, but do you know the backstory behind that rumor?
I don't.
Okay, so apparently Swift was seen attending an American football game with Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and Sean Levy, the director of the film. So Swifties automatically jumped to the conclusion that it was because she was going to be in the movie, which honestly, I kind of would have thought that too, right?
Well, no, she's just really good friends with Blake Lively. I mean, Ryan Reynolds' daughter kicks off a song, one of her old songs. So I guess I wouldn't have jumped to that conclusion.
Well, you know a little bit more about that than you let on. So the whole reason they were hanging out, it turns out that it was just rich people doing rich people things.
Yeah.
And while the average person might not know, you obviously do. While it might seem kind of weird to see them all together, like you said, Blake Lively is part of Swift's inner sanctum. She's consumed the blood of Swift. She was branded with the mark of the Swift and assigned over the soul of her firstborn to her as a symbol of her undying loyalty and devotion. That's super cute, right?
No, not when you put it like that. I'm sure it's nothing like that at all, people.
But she surely has the branding, right?
No, not really. No.
She's consumed the blood of Swift. I mean, even I've consumed the blood of Swift, and I'm not a...
You've not consumed... You're so silly.
All right, enough fucking around, Isela. Ready to get started?
Always.
Great. Let's get started. Now, I know that you're very health.
Yes.
So we're going to describe today will probably disturb you deeply and profusely.
Oh.
A big evil corporation produces something they know is killing us, but they don't stop producing their product because they want to milk us for every dollar that they can while they kill us slowly. But that can't be right, though. We live in a capitalist society. The market dictates what people are willing to buy, not big corporations. Or did I miss the point of capitalism? But what if the big corporations knew they were killing us, but chose not to share that information with any of us? Nay, they went to great lengths not to share that with us. Could you ever imagine something like that happening, Isela?
I'm going to say that sounds very feasible.
Can you think of any examples?
I'm going to say like most of the things that are made with all these, you know, sadly, like the red 40 and the yellow 5 and McDonald's. Let's just go McDonald's. You know, everything that we spread to other countries too. We're like, here, have this. Incorporate this into your healthy ways.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the dyes because there are some countries that have banned Skittles and other candies because those dyes do cause cancer.
Yes.
Other examples, Philip Morris for years hid that cigarettes caused cancer. Same with Johnson & Johnson and their baby powder. Purdue Pharma and Teva claimed the opioids they made were not addictive, leading to the opioid crisis plaguing the U.S. right now.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about a big one right now. One that's so big, its chemicals are in all of us.
Ooh, plastic.
Actually, I was going to do one about microplastics because I think at this point, I'm more microplastic than human. But this one is a little bit more alarming.
Ooh.
The following is from a ProPublica article by Sharon Lerner. And I want to preface this by saying that Lerner's research and article is very extensive. I'm just going to scratch the surface with this episode. I encourage you to read the full article if this is a topic that interests you. Just know that you probably aren't going to have a restful sleep after reading it. Link in the show notes.
Show notes.
In 1997, Kris Hansen, a chemist working for 3M, was asked to test the blood of employees for chemical contamination, specifically fluorochemicals found in Scotchgard, Scotchban, food packaging material, and firefighting foam. Hansen was told the chemicals had found their way in several 3M employees, and while the chemicals were harmless, they wanted to see how widespread it was. Her control samples came from the American Red Cross. After running the employee's blood through a spectrometer, she confirmed the presence of the chemicals. She also ran the control samples through the spectrometer and found that they were also contaminated.
Oy.
Thinking her results were incorrect, her team spent several days analyzing more blood, and they all showed the same results. She couldn't understand why all the samples were contaminated. She ordered blood from other parts of the world and from animals, all contaminated. The first blood sample that came out negative was a sample collected prior to the invention of fluorochemicals in the 1940s. Is this chemical as harmless as 3M claimed, or was its danger a giant cover-up? Now, before we examine this in more detail, were you familiar with this story?
No, I feel like I've heard the DuPont type of things, and but not 3M.
DuPont does play a key figure in this. They're one of the main characters of this story.
Oh, okay.
Now, I think that most people, myself included, first found out about this from John Oliver when he did a story about it in 2021. ProPublica dropped this article 3 weeks ago on May 20th, and it's scarier than I could have possibly imagined. John Oliver will make a little cameo in this episode because his report is actually super important to the story. But let's backtrack a little bit and talk a little bit about these fluorochemicals and Hansen. Now, Hansen had only been working at 3M for about a year before she was tasked with researching the presence of fluorochemicals in human blood. She was 28 and had only recently earned her PhD, so she was as new as they came to the field, and she kind of doubted herself at first. She also trusted 3M. They were a company town, and her own father had even worked there and was a star engineer who was inducted into the company's Hall of Fame in 1979. He helped create Scotch-Brite and the N95 mask.
Oh, wow. Shout out to that guy.
For sure, yeah. And those are two products that we're all very familiar with. I still use Scotch-Brite every day.
I still use some masks sometimes.
Yeah. Now, most people know 3M as the company that makes Scotch tape and Post-it notes, but their history goes back to mining in Minnesota and was founded as the Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company in 1902. When their mining operation failed, they started making inventions to improve everyday life, like sandpaper and masking tape to help auto workers paint cars. Fluorochemicals were invented during World War II when America was trying to create a nuclear bomb. The fluorochemicals allowed the safe bonding of carbon atoms to fluorine atoms. In the early 1950s, when it accidentally landed in the shoe of a 3M employee, they discovered that it resisted oil, water, and stains, and Scotchgard and Scotchban were invented. Going back to your buddies at DuPont, DuPont was marketing it as Teflon on its cookware.
Oh.
By the 1970s, Teflon was in use in most restaurants, and Scotchban was being used to treat food packaging to keep it from getting soggy. You know, so like if you buy some French fries or something that's in the frozen foods section, the packaging will get soggy. It'll be nice and crisp.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
People were spraying Scotchgard on their couches and car interiors, and firefighters were using it to extinguish flames as it also resists heat.
Wow.
So Hansen was asked to look for this chemical in blood samples, and it was literally everywhere. She tested horses, people in China that were as far away from the 3M factories as humanly possible. It was in all their blood. She had other labs test for it to ensure they weren't contaminating the samples. They all came out positive. Only that one blood sample collected before the invention of fluorochemicals came out negative.
Oh, wow.
She presented her studies to her boss, Jim Johnson, Remember that name?
Jim Johnson.
Who only said that this changes everything and locked himself in his office. Johnson's boss, Dale Bacon, suggested that she probably made a mistake. More tests were ordered from every supplier 3M worked with. All of them came up positive.
Yikes.
In the middle of the testing, Johnson suddenly announced that he was going to be taking an early retirement, packed up his office, and quit.
What a coward. That's terrible. Wow, what a douche.
Yeah. His name comes up a little bit later. So remember, old Jimmy Johnson.
Jim Johnson.
So let's talk about why he quit and why John Oliver is so important in all of this after this quick commercial break.
Sounds good.
Welcome to Obsessively Intrigued, the podcast where we dive deep into the passions that fuel our obsessions. We're your host, Bunny.
And Lexel.
Your guides on this journey into the heart of all things.
Tantalizing and captivating. We're here to explore the hidden gems of pop culture. Each episode is a ticket into a realm where curiosity knows no bounds.
We're not just your host, we're your fellow seekers. Because, let's face it, we're all a bit obsessive about something. And here, that's not just okay, it's celebrated. So, if you're ready to unplug from the ordinary and dive into the extraordinary, you're in the right place. Let's hop into it.
This is Obsessively Intrigued. Hello, and welcome to our podcast. In Season 1, we'll be exploring NBC's TV show Hannibal, where we are revisiting and sharing our thoughts about the show.
Join us as we dissect the complex characters, unravel the intricate plot lines, and explore the dark psychology behind this gripping series. Follow us on Instagram at Obsessively Intrigued, Twitter at ObsyIntrigued, that's ObsyIntrigued, or visit our website, www.obsessivelyintrigued.com. We'll see you in the circle of obsession.
Hello, I'm Joe Landry.
And I'm Laurie Olford.
And we are the hosts of Alien Talk Podcast. It's a show where we discuss all things concerning aliens and UFOs, and where we push the very limits of our understanding about the concept of extraterrestrial life and paranormal phenomena.
Yeah, we set out to seek the truth and find the facts pertaining to highly discussed issues about the ancient astronaut theory, the contemporary thinking in the field of ufology, and even matters involving the supernatural and the miraculous.
With each episode, we delve deeply and systematically into fascinating discussions that surround such topics. It's an insightful podcast for insightful minds.
We're two Arizona police detectives and former Christian ministers who are well-versed both in the studies of the Bible and in the methods of analytical investigation. We take what we know about obtaining sound evidence to solve a case and apply it to the pursuit of discovering possible truths that pertain to the existence of aliens, as well as to some of the mysteries of our universe.
So if you want to hear the intellectual side to the questions about UFOs, the hypotheses of extraterrestrial civilizations dwelling on Earth in the ancient past, and to humanity's place in the grand scheme of the cosmos, all as seen through science and religion, then check out Alien Talk Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And let your quest for knowledge take you to places you never thought you could go. And like we always say on the show, stay curious.
And we're back.
Yes, we are. We're back.
Did you eat any forever chemicals during our break, Isela?
Probably. I'm having this Jarritos coconut water. It tastes just like plastic. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Most likely.
Yeah, the packaging was probably sprayed with Scotch Band to keep it from turning soggy.
Yeah. It says it's gluten-free, so at least it's that.
Is it fluorochemicals free also?
I doubt that. I'm sure they're in there. I'm sure it's inside the actual coconut now at this point.
You're probably not wrong.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts so far?
I'm assuming, this is the bad part, but I'm assuming that it got into the air, and because our lungs are basically just like gas exchangers, I think that's how it might have gotten into everyone so quickly.
It can be inhaled. So you're not wrong. That's not the, I guess, the most prominent way that it got into all of us. But, we're going to go ahead and go through this together.
All right.
So before we talk about John Oliver and Jim Johnson, I did want to bring up a very important part of Hansen's research. When she was studying rats with fluorochemicals in their blood, she discovered that fluorochemicals don't break down in the rats' bodies. They just accumulated over time, building up.
Forever?
Forever. That's why they're literally called forever chemicals, because they never break down.
Wow. Okay. Scary.
It is terrifying, especially when I tell you what these things do to you.
Okay.
One curious observation that she made was that male rats had considerably more fluorochemicals than females. At first, she thought it was kind of odd, but then she discovered that the reason the females had less fluorochemicals is because they had just given birth and had passed on the fluorochemicals to their pups.
Oh, that's really sad.
What greater gift a mother can give to their child than fluorochemicals?
That's so sad. That's heartbreaking.
It is terrible. Before leaving the 3M environmental lab to join the 3M medical devices team, she decided to do one last blood sample, her own. She discovered that she had one of the lowest fluorochemical readings she'd ever seen in human blood.
Ugh, convenient.
The reason for this?
Yes.
She had just given birth to twins.
Whoa. Jeez Louise, this is terrible.
Yeah. What a hell of a discovery to make right before switching departments, right?
Yeah. Yes. Wow.
But at least her kids were full of love and fluorochemicals.
Yeah, I was going to say, and chemicals. Bad ones. Jeez.
Now, the reason she left the environmental lab for the medical devices team is because she began to feel marginalized working in the lab. Other employees weren't necessarily hostile towards her, but they seemed to question her research and why she was even doing it in the first place. Several of her superiors stopped greeting her in the hallway. Some of the inventors of these chemicals even confronted Hansen, and they got defensive as to why she was trying to tear down the work of her colleagues and ruin their careers. After Johnson left, Dale Bacon, which was Johnson's manager, asked her to stop her work and not to conduct any further studies unless asked by a superior. At this point, she felt stuck in her position, which is why she felt like she needed to leave the lab.
So I wonder if she felt marginalized because she was a woman, or was she mouthing off in any other way? Or in any way? I don't know.
I'm sure that was part of it. She was a woman. She was young. She had just gotten her PhD. Again, at this time, she's buying into everything that 3M is saying, that the fluorochemicals are safe. So she doesn't know why everybody's making a big deal about it. 3M kind of just came to her like, hey, you know what? We think that some employees have been exposed to this. Can you find out how much they have? And then when they went to test all the control samples, that's when they realized that it was everywhere.
Wow.
Now, I know everything seems kind of bleak so far, but here comes the ray of sunshine and positivity our show, specifically my episodes, are known for.
Cue the Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun.
In 2021, John Oliver did a segment on Last Week Tonight about forever chemicals, stating that fluorochemicals could cause high cholesterol, ulcerative colitis, pregnancy-induced hypertension, thyroid disease, testicular cancer, kidney cancer, and decreased response to vaccines.
Oh, is that all?
Well, there's more, but that's what John Oliver covered.
I'm just kidding.
One of Hansen's former professors sent her the segment. Hansen wrote to her professor saying that it made her sad to see so many inaccuracies in John Oliver's report. When her professor asked her what was incorrect, she actually didn't know how to answer. This whole time, Hansen had been told that fluorochemicals were safe and didn't pose any health risks. So she decided to do a little Google search for the health effects of fluorochemicals and was deeply troubled by what she read.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she found paper after paper talking about the negative health effects. Everything John Oliver had reported was correct. In addition to what Oliver reported, these chemicals also increased food allergies, asthma, and interfered with hormones, fertility, liver, and thyroid function.
Jesus. Wow. Everything.
Pretty much everything.
Wow.
So at this point, Hansen not only felt enraged by everything that she read, she also felt dirty for ever collecting 3M paychecks. Her whole career, she was told that fluorochemicals were not harmful, and she blindly repeated those statements. And she said she would tell that to her family, to her friends, to other colleagues.
Yeah.
The worst part is that 3M knew all this and never told her. She even found records of studies that she had conducted, as well as notes from meetings that she had attended. In October of 2022, after working with 3M for 26 years, her job was eliminated and she chose not to apply for a new one. This is when Hansen got in contact with Sharon Lerner at ProPublica to share her story. And that's the source for this whole episode. Hansen actually got her name from an article that John Oliver referenced in his report that cited an article by Sharon Lerner about the health risks of fluorochemicals. And when I tell you that Lerner is thorough, I'm not just blowing hot air up her ass. She's very thorough in all her reporting. Now, are you ready for the Midnight Shyamalan moment of this episode?
Oh, yes.
While Lerner was researching the thousands of fluorochemical-related lawsuits that 3M was facing, she came across a document from 1991. Again, keep in mind, she didn't start working on this until 1997.
Okay.
A document from 1991 from a 3M scientist that talked about using a mass spectrometer to measure fluorochemicals in biological fluids. This was the same technique that Hansen was using. The author of that paper was Jim Johnson.
Oh, that rat bastard who left.
I'm glad you remembered. I was going to say, where did we hear that name before? Oh, yeah. That's right. That was Hansen's boss that took the early retirement after Hansen discovered that fluorochemicals were in every single living thing on the planet.
Yep. Jeez.
Yeah. Now, not only did Johnson already know this, he invented the technique to test it and still managed to feign surprise and amazement when Hansen reported this to him years later.
What a bastard.
Yeah. Johnson not only invented the way to measure it, he also knew the negative health effects as he experimented on rabbits to study the health effects. He said that he argued against putting fluorochemicals in toothpaste and diapers, but realized that his efforts were all in vain when he discovered that it was already being used in food packaging. Not to mention the waste that 3M and DuPont were dumping into lakes and rivers, making its way into fish and the drinking water. You want to know the best part?
Oh my God. I don't know. What? I'm like, do I want to know? I don't know. What?
This is the sunshine and rainbows part.
Okay.
The reason Johnson never did more was because he thought of himself as a loyal soldier protecting 3M from liability. That's so inspirational, right? My man's a true G.
Looking out for the wrong people, you idiot. Damn. What a fucking jerk.
So what do you think about this wild roller coaster ride of an episode? I know I kind of steamrolled the details through you, but what do you think?
It's so awful that he knew. And he still... Look, I like the fact that you did say he tried somewhat to argue against it, but I guess the corporation was still like full steam ahead type of thing. But obviously he didn't try hard enough. This is where you whistle blow and do all that shit to save lives. Wow. Totally doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Doing life wrong.
Yeah, it's super fucked up. Super fucked up to hear that they knew about this all this time. Never did a goddamn thing about it.
Yeah. Did he get, I don't know, reprimanded in any way?
Well, he's in his 80s now, so he's just retired, and Lerner did interview him. He sounds very proud. He's all, nobody killed more rabbits than I did testing the fluorochemicals and everything. But this article is so extensive. You've got to read it yourself. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This would have been like a 2-hour episode if I went over everything.
It just doesn't make sense. You're going to go through all of this extensive testing to do what? Just to shut the fuck up? Like, then why even go through all that shit? Why even fucking kill all these bunnies? You know what I mean?
I guess when they first started doing that, they just wanted to see how lethal it was. And when they realized how lethal it was, they said, yeah, we probably shouldn't report this. There was a part that was saying that if people were to sue for all the damage that it's caused, the size of the lawsuit would be worth more than the value of the entire company.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Jeez. Wow. I had no idea about that one. That's crazy.
Yeah, super crazy.
For sure.
I don't know about you, Isela, but I think I need a drink after all that. Are you ready for a little whiskey?
Yes, do tell. What is the pick of the week?
I know I've said it before, but few people are as classy as you. So a classy woman needs a classy drink. I got you, girl. I got you.
Let's hear it.
Now, normally I like to feature good value whiskeys because times are tough. And like everyone, I like to save money when I can, but sometimes you just gotta splurge. So let's talk about a very splurgeable bourbon.
Oh, splurgy.
The story of Penelope Bourbon begins in 2018 when Mike and Carrie Palladini found out they were expecting a baby girl, Penelope. To commemorate the occasion, Mike teamed up with a childhood friend and neighbor, Danny Police, to produce a straight bourbon whiskey, as one does when they learn that they're having a child.
Sure.
That bourbon that you produced when your daughter was born, all I can say is that people are still talking about it. It was exquisite. And I must say it's remarkable how both you and the Pallandinis had the foresight to start aging bourbon 4 years before both of your daughters were born, just so that it would be ready.
It's that foresight, you know.
It is. I myself have been aging whiskey for 25 years now to celebrate when I have my first child. I don't think it's good anymore, but we'll just keep aging it for now. If anything, we'll just add a little bit of water to the barrel and shake it up a little. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yes.
Now, that's the story that Penelope tells. The fact is that the bourbon is made by MGP. It was rumored to have been made by MGP prior to them recently buying the brand, but now that they bought it, it pretty much solidifies the rumor. Aside from MGP, their other partners were Bardstown Bourbon Company and Speyside Cooperage. It's unclear what Bardstown role was in Penelope, but Speyside provided the American oak barrels. And the reason I kind of wanted to talk about this, aside from it just being an incredible bottle of bourbon, is that there's a little bit of mixed feelings surrounding MGP. MGP stands for Midwest Grain Products, and they're actually based out of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Now, when you think of bourbon, Isela, what's the first state that you think of?
Kentucky?
Exactly. For some people, that's an automatic strike. Personally, I don't care. If it tastes good, it passes my most stringent test.
Palate, yeah.
The second thing that blemishes them a bit is their lack of transparency. They go to great lengths to keep their clients secret, which is not really a mark on MGP, but more on the clients, because people feel misled when they read the tale of how someone's great-grandfather rationed their bath water every day to create a bourbon that was not only unique and delicious, but John the Baptist used the same water to baptize Jesus in the Sea of Galilee over 2,000 years ago. That same bath water is used to create every bottle of bourbon that our company lovingly handcrafts to our highest, most discriminating standards, only to find out that it was made by MGP in Indiana.
Ah, I see.
So rightfully, the average consumer feels misled when they buy into a company's horse shit.
Yeah, a little gypped. I get it.
Yeah. And the way that MGP works is that they literally have thousands and thousands of barrels of bourbon that have been aging in different levels of charred barrels with different mash bills for different lengths of time. The client goes into MGP, tells them what flavor profile they're looking for, tastes a few barrels. This is called thieving the barrel, when you taste it straight out of the barrel. The clients will find a flavor profile that they like and buy the barrels to bottle and distribute at their own company, or MGP can also handle the bottling and distributing for you if you prefer. I was actually really curious about that. Like, what's the minimum number of bottles that you can buy to create your own bourbon?
Yeah.
And it's only four barrels.
Hey, we should do it. Let's do it.
Each barrel costs about $10,000, but
okay, pass. Did I say let's do it? I meant let's not do it. Wowzers.
And if you have like your own mash bill, like we discussed before, our mash bill is just a fancy name for recipe, and you have your own recipe that you want to try, they'll do it for you. But if you do use your own mash bill, it's going to be 250 barrels that you have to commit to buying.
At $10,000 each?
Well, that's about what they cost. It might be less. I'm not sure. But when I've read about bottles of bourbon, it's normally about 10,000.
Wow. Okay.
And when you see all these celebrities that are popping up all of a sudden on Instagram, all those third-rate CW stars that all of a sudden have their own bottle of bourbon, It was probably made by MGP. And that was probably how Penelope started. The thing about Penelope is that this is some really good shit.
Okay.
The bottle that I have here is the Penelope Toasted Bourbon. And unlike other whiskeys we featured here, this one actually does have an age statement. It's aged 5 years. It's 100 proof, which is my proof of choice, and finished in heavily toasted barrels. This whiskey, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it, it tastes like dessert whiskey. One of the sweetest that I've probably had. And even though it is smoky, it's not the same type of smoky as Woodford Reserve or Old Forester. Those are more of a darker taste, kind of like dark chocolate almost. Penelope Toasted is more of a brighter taste, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah.
And for me, I get the smokiness more on the finish than I do on the palate. The aftertaste that leaves in your mouth is what is smoky more than the actual taste. Penelope describes the tasting note as deep notes of vanilla, which I can kind of see that.
Okay.
Now here's the classy part. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
It costs $67 in our area.
That's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but it is, I think, more than the casual consumer would be willing to spend on a bottle.
I would agree. Yeah. Especially inflation. I get it.
Yeah, especially. You want to hear the fucked up part, though?
Oh, no. It only costs $1 to make.
No. This is a bad on me.
Uh-oh.
So I first started hearing about this bourbon a few months ago, actually about the time I think that Penelope was purchased by MGP. And I had seen all these great reviews about it. I was really excited to try it, but the price always made me repulse in horror.
Sure.
So a couple of months ago, I finally decided to bite the bullet and buy it. When I tasted it, I was like, what the fuck? This shit tastes like grass. I looked carefully at the bottle. I had bought their rye whiskey, not their bourbon.
Oh.
And that was a very expensive mistake on my part.
Yes.
So this past weekend, after my wallet recovered a bit, I decided to try my luck again. This time I read the label very carefully and made sure that I bought the bourbon. And I'm so glad I did. Like I said, it's delicious. All the reviews and the hype were true about this bottle. But that's my word of caution to you if you choose to follow me down this path of madness. The bottles and labels are identical, except that one says rye whiskey and one says bourbon. And it's right here in the smallest possible font on the bottle itself.
Of course it is, yeah.
Nothing else about this bottle is different. So just be very careful. That's my warning.
Yeah. Sounds like an easy mistake to have been made.
Yeah, I was very upset about that.
Yeah.
At $67, I would recommend that you try it before you buy it. But if you already know you like sweet and smoky and have $70 burning a hole in your pocket and want to try something a little bit different, it is a definite buy. The taste is amazing. It's one of my new favorites. So I'll make sure that I save a little bit for you next time that you come over.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like you're going to kill that pretty quickly. No, it does sound really delicious.
Yeah, I have been limiting myself just because I don't want to rebuy it soon.
It's a special occasioner.
Yeah, for sure. And the rye, I actually saw a review the other day that was saying that the rye tastes really good in Coke. So I might use that technique to try slowly get rid of it.
The one that tastes like grass.
Well, it tastes like grass, yeah. I've always said I like high rye bourbon, but rye whiskey, I'm not a huge fan of. And there is a big distinction. Rye whiskeys are minimum 51% rye, and a high rye bourbon is like 13% rye. So it's a big distinction.
Got it.
But they do make great old fashions. I've had a few old fashions with the rye. They taste great. Pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. We like old fashions a lot.
For sure. Special shout out to her super homie, super friends, Sophia, Natasha, Eric, Angie, Eli, Madtown Charity, Katya, Victor, Christine, and Josh. If you want to be super cool and help support the show, get the episodes a week early and ad-free, get your name shouted out on the show, and get some stickers from us a few times a year, check us out on patreon.com/technicallyaconversation or check the show notes. Best of all, it's only $2 a month, baby. You can't even buy cigarettes or a bucket of fluorochemicals for that.
Nobody wants that.
Raw dog that shit. Just fucking eat it raw dog.
You're We should never have that word in there. in our podcast.
On that high note, we hope that you enjoyed the show and you join us again next week. If you're enjoying the show, leave us a review, tell a friend, and subscribe wherever fine podcasts are sold. Follow us on the socials at GreetingsTAC, email us at greetingstac@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 915-317-6669. If you have a story of how fluorochemicals fucked up your whole shit to share with us.
That's so terrible. I don't know if we really want to hear that.
Yeah, you're right. You can also let us know if fluorochemicals only fucked up half your shit.
Yeah, half of your shit is fine. Or you know what? Even just tell us about a crazy night with bourbon or rye whiskey.
Or raw dogging those fluorochemicals, eating them raw, baby.
Oh, damn it. Our algorithms, like, definitely getting coerced.